I am Jeptha, and this is my story. The wind carries the smell of tar and river mud tonight, the same smell it carried the night my mother sent me away from Gilead with nothing but a cloak, a knife, and the sound of my brothers laughing behind the gate. I was young then, young enough to believe that if I simply proved myself, the door would open again. I did not yet understand that some wounds are carried for a lifetime, and that God can still write something holy across the scar tissue of a broken life. My father was Gilead, a respected man, a man of standing among our clan in the hill country east of the Jordan. My mother was not his wife. She was a woman who sold herself for bread, and I was the proof of an hour he would rather have forgotten. I grew up in his house anyway, ate at his table, learned to ride and hunt beside my half-brothers, until the day his true sons were old enough to do the arithmetic of inheritance. You will not share our father's land, the eldest told me, his hand already on the hilt of his knife, more threat than invitation to argue. You are the son of another woman. Get out of this house. I remember the dust on my sandals as I walked the ridge road out of Gilead, and I remember thinking, foolishly, the way a young man thinks, that shame is a debt you can work off if you are strong enough. I did not know yet that shame is not a debt. It is a scar. You do not pay it off. You learn to live honestly with it, or it eats you from the inside for the rest of your days. I went to the land of Tob, out past the edge of anything my father's name could reach, and there I gathered around me the only kind of men who would have a man like me, the landless, the desperate, the outlawed. We raided, we survived. I will not pretend to you that those years were righteous ones. I learned to read a ridgeline for ambush, to smell rain 3 hours before it fell, to know by the way a man's shoulders sat on his horse, whether he meant to fight or flee. I became hard because the hill country of Tob does not keep soft men alive. And yet, even there, even among men the priests would have called worthless, I never stopped believing in the God of my fathers. At night, when the fire burned low and the others slept with their swords still in their hands, I would look up at that enormous black sky pierced through with stars, the same sky Abraham once counted his descendants by, and I would ask the Lord the same question over and over. Do you see me out here? Does a man like me still belong to you? I did not know the answer would come from the very people who cast me out. Years passed like that, hard, dusty, uncertain years, until a delegation rode into Tob. I saw the dust of their approach long before I saw their faces, and something in my chest tightened, because I recognized the banner. Elders of Gilead. The same men, some of them, who had stood silent while my brothers drove me from my father's gate. The Ammonites have massed against us, their spokesman said, not quite meeting my eyes. They mean to take the land east of the Jordan by force. Come and be our commander, Jeptha. Fight for us. I laughed, a short, bitter sound that surprised even me. Are you not the ones who hated me, who threw me out of my own father's house? Why come to me now when you're in trouble? That is exactly why we have come, the elder said quietly. We need you. Be our head over all of us who live in Gilead. I stood there a long moment with the wind moving the tent flaps behind me, feeling something I had not let myself feel in years, the ache of a boy who only ever wanted to belong somewhere. I could have told them no. I could have let them face the Ammonites without me and called it justice. But bitterness, I had already learned, curdles a man from the inside, and there is no strength in nursing a wound forever. If you take me back to fight the Ammonites, I said slowly, and the Lord gives them into my hands, will I really be your head? The Lord is witness between us, they answered. We will do as you say. So I went back to Mizpah with them, back into the land that had once cast me out, and the people made me their head and commander. I remember standing before them that first night, in the tabernacle courtyard, and speaking my whole story out loud before the Lord. Every insult, every year of exile, every doubt, because I needed him to know I had not forgotten who had raised me up. And it was not these men, it was him. Before a single sword was drawn, I sent messengers to the king of the Ammonites, asking by what right he had invaded our land. His answer came back full of old grievances, claims to territory Israel had taken from his fathers 300 years before, when we came up out of Egypt. I sent a second message, laying out the history plainly and honestly, how Israel had not stolen the land, but received it from the Lord after Sihon, king of the Amorites, refused us safe passage and attacked us first. How we had lived on that ground, undisturbed, for 3 centuries, while he said nothing. I have not sinned against you, I told his messengers, but you are doing me wrong by fighting against me. Let the Lord, the judge, decide today between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. The king of Ammon did not listen. I felt the Spirit of the Lord come upon me the day I crossed into Gilead and Manasseh, gathering the tribes for war, and I cannot fully describe that feeling to you even now. A strength that was not my own, settling over my shoulders like a mantle, steadying my hands on the reins, sharpening my mind for what was coming. It was not the hardness I had learned in Tob. It was something cleaner, something borrowed from a source infinitely larger than myself. And it was there, in that charged and holy moment, standing on the edge of a battle I knew could go either way, that I made the vow. I want to tell you honestly what was in my heart, because I have turned this moment over 10,000 times since, lying awake with the weight of it. I was not thinking of my house. I was not thinking of my daughter, my only child, the girl who ran laughing through my courtyard with her friends, whose voice was the first sound I heard every morning since her mother died bringing her into the world. In that instant, staring down the armies of Ammon, all I could think of was victory and gratitude and a desperate desire to give God something worthy of what he was about to do. If you will indeed give the Ammonites into my hand, I said aloud, my voice shaking, though I told myself it was only the wind, then whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. I did not need to make that vow. God's Spirit was already upon me. His hand was already moving, but I was a man shaped by exile and hard years, a man who had learned to trust nothing that was not paid for, bargained for, earned. And so even in this, the most sacred moment of my life, I reached for a bargain instead of simply trusting the God who had already chosen to use me. We crushed them. 20 cities, from Aroer to the plain of the vineyards, fell before Israel that day, and the children of Ammon were subdued before us. I rode back toward Mizpah with the sound of victory still ringing in my ears, my men singing behind me, my heart lighter than it had been since I was a boy. And then I saw my house on the hill and my daughter running out through the gate. She was dancing. She had taken up the timbrel, the way the women did to celebrate victory, and she was dancing out to meet me. Her father, home from battle, alive. I do not have words for what happened inside me in that moment. I tore my clothes. I fell forward, and a sound came out of me that I had never made before and have never made since. "Alas, my daughter," I cried out, "you have brought me very low, and you are among those who trouble me. I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot go back on it." She stopped dancing. I watched the understanding cross her face slowly, the way morning light crosses a valley. And then, God help me, she did not run. She did not curse me. She walked toward me and knelt. "My Father," she said, "if you have given your word to the Lord, do to me according to what you have said, since the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the people of Ammon." Only this, she asked 2 months to go into the mountains with her friends, to weep for the life she would never live, the children she would never hold, before the vow was fulfilled. I gave her that. What else could a father give? She went with her companions into the hills, and I listened to their weeping carried down on the wind for 2 months, and I have never in my life felt so powerless, so responsible, so utterly undone by my own words. When she returned, she had not run from what I had spoken over both our lives. And so I did with her, according to the vow I had made. She had never known a man. This became a custom in Israel, that the daughters of Israel would go 4 days every year to lament the daughter of Jeptha the Gileadite. I have led Israel for 6 years since that day, and I will tell you plainly, there has not been a single sunrise where I have not carried her. I have asked the Lord 1,000 times whether he required what I gave, or whether my own rash mouth demanded what his hand never asked for. Scripture does not answer me plainly on that question, and I have made peace with living inside that unanswered space, the way many faithful men and women before me have had to live inside their own unhealed grief. What I know is this: God is not honored by careless vows spoken in the heat of triumph. He does not need our bargains to move on our behalf. His Spirit had already come upon me before I ever opened my mouth. And I know that my daughter, whoever she might have become, chose faithfulness and honor, even standing in the wreckage of my failure. And there was more courage in her willing walk down that mountain than in any battle I ever fought. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this: guard your words before the Lord. He is not moved by what we promise him in desperate hours. He is moved by hearts that trust him before the battle is ever won. Do not let triumph make you reckless. Do not let fear make you bargain with the God who already loves you. I was an outcast who became a deliverer, and I learned that grace does not wait for us to be worthy of it. But I also learned, in the hardest way a father can learn anything, that our mouths can wound the very people our hands were meant to protect. Weigh your words. Trust his hand more than your promises. He was already moving before I ever spoke.